The money was a big tool to delay my ability to be who I am today.
You might not know the name Alex Peycoff, but his family is quietly one of the richest in America. His dad founded Niagara Bottling. As a privately held company, it's not public knowledge exactly how much it's worth, though it's safe to say it's far above $1 billion company. On his own, Alex is worth more than $100 million. But for years, that money controlled him.
I was looking for connection. I wanted somebody to love me and view me as a human being instead of this person that could throw money around because I was printing it.
Then the unthinkable happened.
I see my daughter up there. She can't make eye contact with me. And it broke my heart because she thought she did something wrong. From that point going forward, I redefined what I was going to use money for, how much money I needed, and could I save the world the pain that I went through.
I'm Harry Morton, and this is Moneywise, a podcast not about how to make money, but about all the things that change in your life once you do. In this episode, Alex Peycoff opens up about paying off a different kind of debt, emotional debt. He takes us on his journey from wild, drug-fueled nights and empty highs to the moment he realized his impact on the world meant more than his bank account. Niagara Bottling. I'm sure that's enough context already for you to understand just how much money Alex comes from. But here's some more anyway. Also, keep in mind, the company was founded in 1963, about 2 years before Alex was born, meaning he really grew up with the company. Tell me about the financial situation you grew up in. Like how much access did you have to money as a kid?
My dad's a very, very interesting man. You have to understand his parents immigrated here from Macedonia. When his father left Macedonia, which was many, many years ago, he left knowing he was never going to see his mother or his sister again because it was a war-torn country. And he was 18 at the time. So 18-year-olds were put in the front line. So my dad ends up going to Buffalo, New York, eventually gets married, has kids, and so on and so on. My dad moves to California and starts working in the milk business. Back in the day, you'd have these little glass bottles that would come to your house, and that's what he did. Eventually, he got into the water business. But growing up, we just watched my dad work. That's what he did. He worked. And we learned about what money does and what money doesn't do. And my dad used to always say this: anybody can make money, but it takes a smart man to save it. So growing up, we had an understanding of what money was, what it took to get it, and what the real purpose of it was. And so growing up, coming in a family of a gentleman who worked to make money to survive and provide for his family, you get a different perspective on it. So I wasn't one of those kids that was spoon-fed. There's a lot of kids growing up in Newport Beach, California, which is a relatively financially affluent area. Nothing was handed to me. My dad taught us, look, this is what you do. You work, try not to have debt. If you're going to buy something, pay for cash. Because he used to say this: you don't want to be working for the bank. And when I was a young man, I never knew what that meant. Like, my dad doesn't work for the bank. He's in the water business. Well, what he meant is that the bank's controlling his life. So that was somewhat him teaching us financial freedom, right? Which is, most people don't understand that. Most people get up every Monday not being the happiest because they're committed to do something to make sure the bank doesn't take what they have, whether it's your car, whether it's your house. So you start watching that dynamic. Were we living in a nice area? Yes, we were living in a nice area. Did we have clothing? Did we have all the necessities? Yes. But going through life, you watch the company start growing. Did anything change? Nothing changed from my dad's core values, which is most people that grow up in a business environment or a family environment that has money, their core values change. Because the typical person that's acquiring a lot of financial wealth, they're never focusing on their emotional wealth. Okay? And so that's kind of what I saw. I saw what's going on. How was our family dynamic? Was everybody getting along? We had our own levels of brokenness, but the money would change that. Money magnifies that level of brokenness. So again, I wasn't a type of person where my dad taught us to throw money around. Unfortunately for me, I had my own insecurities. Okay. So I figured I'm going to be that guy who, F you, do you know who I am? And I'd throw money at people. Let me get in this bar. Here's $100, or I want this restaurant, and I'd be that total a-hole, right? So I taught myself that because I was never given that permission slip to be emotionally present, right? For me, it was about make money. You're a money-making machine. Make money, make money. That's the dynamic I was raised in. I unfortunately interpreted incorrectly that money was giving me value. Okay. It wasn't the right thing to do. Most people in society, when you're talking about wealth and generational wealth, they lose those core principles of what that first patriarch or matriarch was doing to get that money. None of these people that have ultra financial wealth, I guarantee you this, woke up and said, you know what? Today I'm going to become a billionaire or a millionaire. No one does that. And the true generational wealth doesn't focus on that. It's this new wealth where they're trying to sit there and tell everybody all this money they have to mask their own internal problems. That's the problem. So again, when you look at it today, I have a large family. We all interpret money in our own way, right? Me personally, I kind of stepped away from the extreme wealth of that dynamic because I didn't like the impact it was having on my daughter, right? So I just reinterpreted what money was for me and what wealth was for me. And I discovered money does certain things, but I can impact people more just by being present and talking to them about real stuff and being authentic.
We're racing ahead here. Alex does that. He's got a ton of value to share and incredible insight, but to get the most out of that value, we've got to get the full story. So we need to go back to the 80s. Yes, that means cocaine.
I'm 17 around this time.
The cocaine comes a bit later, don't worry.
At that time, I was buying friends, not intentionally, because I didn't know. You know, your brain's not fully developed for a man until you're 26. Women's is 23, 24. So I think I was looking, I'm going to acquire as much wealth I can to hide my insecurities and be really cool, right? So I wanted enough money where if we sneak into the local bars, you know, I can sit there and pick up the tab, or, hey, you guys want to go to a Cars concert or a Devo concert? Again, for you young followers out there, those were actually really famous bands back in the day. You know, and so I would throw money around like that. So I wanted enough money to have friends, but I found out later in life they weren't friends, they were acquaintances.
How much money were you personally making at this point in time? Like what did your income look like?
Well, okay, keep in mind, this is the 80s. So in the 80s, I'm making stupid money. I'm a kid that's in his 20s, right? And I'm making a couple $100,000 a year. And if you're 20 and you're in the 80s and you're making a couple $100,000 a year, you're pretty much a badass.
In those years, in your 20s and 30s, like how aggressive were you in pursuit of that, of more money, like in terms of your investments and your portfolio? Like how aggressive was it back then?
Here's the thing. I'm wired differently. I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as trying to prove that I could make money to my dad. To say I was working 12 hours a day, that would be a lie because it was more than that. But I was working, and I was working a lot because that's what I knew to do. And it's how I got validation from my dad. And then the way I got validation back from him is I'm getting money. Like a lot of money, right? And so at that time also, I'm playing around with real estate a little bit. So I'm learning about real estate, and I'm really, wow, this is really fun, right? So I'm dabbling in real estate. And then I realized I like real estate more than the water industry because I'm creating something, right? So I shift away from the beverage industry and get into real estate, where now I'm making like crazy money. I mean, stupid money, because I'm buying and flipping houses. And on some of these houses, I'm buying them for, you know, in Orlando, Florida, I'm buying a 2-bedroom condo for $30,000. 9 days later, I'm flipping it for $80,000. Okay. My mistake was, and I'm going random here, I was selling them. Idiot me. Because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm flipping. And I held some of them. Today, the ones that I held, they're worth substantially more. But I don't know if the word was aggressive. I just liked. Money was a byproduct of my passion for working and creating. It wasn't my end goal. It's just like, I'm changing things and this is exciting and they're giving me money. I'm getting paid to do something I love. This is great, right? So I never looked at, you know, hey, here's an extra $1 million in the bank, or here's 30 million, or even today when, you know, you're talking several $100 million. I never really thought of it that way. I just thought of it like, it was more for me of like, this is what I can do.
What were you spending back then, do you think, in your 20s and your 30s?
Well, and again, I talk about this on stage a lot. I found a drug that I liked quite a bit, and it was cocaine. I was spending a lot of that with my friends, and I was flying my friends to Vegas on private jets and flying them all over the place. So, you know, to say I was burning, you know, when we'd go out, would I drop 10K in a night on town? Yes. This is, 80s, 90s. That's a little bit of money. So you're getting in the VIP rooms. You're getting past all the lines. But what happened, and I don't think I've shared this story ever, is one day, this is so your audience will understand, I'm driving a certain car and we're at this club, and I can't believe I can't tell you this story. So I have more than an 8-ball on me. An 8-ball was like whatever you buy, but I had several 8-balls on me. So I dump them on the hood of the car. And we're chopping them up and going to town. A little after that, I couldn't breathe. Because what it does, and I'm not advocating drug use at all, it numbed my whole throat so I couldn't do it. And so I said, wow, I'm going to stop. And I stopped doing all drugs, never done drugs since then. Maybe I've smoked some weed, but we were just partying. And the money let me party, whether it was $10,000, $15,000 a night, whatever it was taking away my emptiness. I was looking for friends. I was looking for connection. I wanted somebody to love me and view me as a human being instead of this person that could throw money around because I was printing it. I mean, it was like, it was just coming out of the skies.
So how do you feel like it was affecting your personal relationships? Like,
I didn't have that. Let me explain it this way. And I think I talk about it in my second book. There was a thing Eddie Murphy said a long time ago, and you can edit this because you did say you're going to edit. Eddie Murphy was like, man, I've got so much pussy coming out of my pockets, woohoo. I had more, I was getting laid a lot, but it was terrible. It was empty, right? I'm not having intimacy. I'm having sex with people and I'm drunk and I'm waking up the next day feeling like crap, but I didn't know how to get out of that cycle, right? I had nobody there. Does that make sense? I had nobody, like if I really hit a bad spot, I had nobody there. I mean, hey man, Alex is crying. Alex doesn't want to go party with it. Doesn't want to spend money. Like we don't need him anymore. So I was disposable. So it messed with my psyche, but it helped me realize, wow, there's a lot of people that had the same level of brokenness that I had that weren't dealing with their emotional debt. So the money was a big tool to delay my ability to be who I am today.
I'm really interested in what you feel like your impact on and your sort of place in the world was like at this stage in your life.
At that stage in my life, I'm quite embarrassed of my impact. I believe it was, this is mine and I'm going to take what I can take. I believe I had a very selfish, insecure, disrespectful perspective on everything. Like, I don't care. I remember a time my buddies and I were in Europe because I, took some breaks from just living, and I remember thrashing a hotel in Hamburg, Germany. I remember them, giving us a bill, and I kind of told them to, whatever. Look, we all frame things in life from a negative perspective. As I've gotten older, I've taken those negative things and made them a positive. I look at those experiences, and I'm grateful that I had them because I know it's what made me who I am today. Have I ever intentionally hurt somebody in my life with that crap? Yeah. Does it feel bad when I play back that video in my head of some people that maybe we got in a fight with and hurt them, or did I belittle somebody and make them feel like an insecure little piece of crap? Yes, but that was me projecting my own emptiness onto them. So it made me who I am today, but I had to slow down and look at what am I doing with my life. And very few people can slow down and tell themselves the truth. There's a famous poem called The Man in the Mirror. And for years, I never looked at that guy in the mirror. I mean, I saw him, but I never looked at him and realized, what am I doing, right? And so those things, I looked back and said, wow, thank God for those experiences. And thank God for now going in life. I tell people, look, what are you doing? When you get older in life, people tend to listen to you a little bit. And I said, look, I see what you're doing, but let me tell you what your future looks like. It's going to suck.
His mindset today didn't just come from a drug-induced breathing fit. There were two epiphany moments. One was the happiest day in his life, and the other, the opposite.
My daughter was born on December 7th, 1999. I realized climbing Mount Everest, the Mount Everest of money, didn't matter. I just knew I needed to be there for my daughter because this human being loved me unconditionally. And I never experienced that before because money taught me about conditional love and conditional experiences. And so I knew how I was raised, and I knew I learned a lot of stuff. but I knew I wanted to raise my daughter a little bit differently. I didn't want to work as much. I wanted to be there for her. But what really, really, really changed is seeing her get hurt. About 12 years ago, we're living in this very affluent community. I have a beach house that actually looks out in the ocean, beautiful. I mean, it was like, you know, if anybody's saying, hey, this is what I want, you'd want that house or you'd want to be in that city. You're like, oh my gosh, right? And I used to joke with my friends. I said, look, it's so hard to sleep here at night because of those stupid ocean waves, right? That was kind of the asshole mindset I had, right? So fast forwarding to Memorial Day weekend, I'm working on a deal to sell something to this company called Viacom. And it's going on for weeks, and I'm physically there, but I'm not emotionally there. And what happened is my daughter at that time is 15, and something, you know, unfortunate happened to her. It's something that happens to a lot of teen girls, but she was a victim of a sex crime. And so at that point, I had to figure out, what the F am I doing? What am I doing? And I'm chasing something that someone told me to chase, right? It wasn't what I wanted to chase, but it's what society told me to chase. But that's not success. So when I saw the most important, and I'm going to use the word possession from a different context, when I saw the most important possession of mine getting hurt and damaged because I wasn't emotionally there, I had to reframe, what the flying flip is Alex Peycoff doing with his life, right? And I'll wrap up on this subject. In North America, when a person is a victim of a sex crime, they go to this thing called a forensic hospital, okay? So I see my daughter up there. She can't make eye contact with me. And it broke my heart because she thought she did something wrong. You know who did something wrong? The guy you're talking to. I did something wrong. And so from that point going forward, I redefined what I was going to use money for, how much money I needed, and could I save the world the pain that I went through? And could I start getting real connections with people that loved me and accepted me unconditional? And that's what I discovered. I changed everything. I kind of shut down work for a while. I did a lot of deep soul searching because she went to programs. A lot of stuff happened, and I basically I tell people this: we're the most advanced computer in the world. The human body is the most advanced computer. And I knew however my computer was running, it wasn't running right. So I call it decision day. I had to make a decision. Am I going to keep on going on this path where I'm staying above water, coming up, and kind of just treading? Or am I going to reboot this whole system and go back to just being a clean version of myself and do things that are really improving my quality of life, my daughter's quality of life, and other people's quality of life around me?
How did it feel to come to that realization?
Well, I'll tell you the whole process. Basically what happens is you kind of get negative. You feel your whole life someone was lying to you. Look, here's why I do what I do. I do not know how not to be authentic. I do not know how to be not emotionally vulnerable. I just don't. At this point in my life, I choose not to. I was thinking in my head, why would my dad tell me certain things? Why did my dad tell me being emotional was a weakness? Why would my dad tell me you can't be stressed, you're too young for stress, right? So for a long time, I wasn't happy with him. Right? I wasn't happy with him at all. But I taught myself to reframe it that he didn't mean to me not be emotional. He said, in business, you don't have time for emotion. So I was disconnecting from my daughter, a fair portion of the time. I was there. She's had a great life. We've traveled, always been there for her. I raised her myself since she was 2 weeks old. So, but I still wasn't, I was still focusing on, I'm a person who can make money. Coming from a business family, that's what I knew how to do. I can fix things, I can make money, and that's what my job was, to make money and make sure there's enough money for colleges and all that type of stuff. At that time, I didn't know why my dad was saying what he was saying. And then I took back, I said, okay, I get it. His job as a man from his perspective, coming from Macedonia and in the old mindset, is I'm going to make sure my kids know how to make money and are financially secure. And crying and being vulnerable and being sensitive isn't going to pay the rent. I'm not going to go to the grocery store and start crying and say, hey, can I give you some tears for food? So I had to switch that mindset and realize I'm going to sit there and walk away from a lot of money and be there for my daughter, and I'll make money again because I know how. I was going to do it on my terms, if that makes sense. And then going through life, seeing other things that happened to her, and then seeing other kids have other issues, I realized that I'm going to keep on doing what feels good, no matter how much pain it brings, because it does hurt when you're an empath. It does hurt to have the phone call and your daughter's crying to you about, losing a relationship or whatever, or an argument she had with somebody. All that hurts, but I want to feel that because it makes me present. It makes me alive. I want to embrace my emotional stuff. I want to be able to watch movies and cry. So how does it make me feel? It makes me feel pretty damn good because I'm only worried about one thing: what feels good to Alex, and focusing on my agenda and my truth. For years, I was listening to somebody else's truth of me, right? And someone else's agenda of me. It's like earlier we talked about success. Success is what society tells you. Society tells you what happiness is. Bull crap. I want to tell you what my happiness is. I want to tell you what feels good for me. And if sleeping 12 hours a day makes me feel good, I'm going to do it. So I'm going to shut down all that noise. And when I started doing this, life was great. Unbelievably great. Because I didn't care. Let me rephrase it. I care how people feel because I don't want to hurt anybody, but I don't care what they view, how they view me. I don't. And I know that sounds really harsh and cold, but I don't care. It doesn't help me out. It doesn't help out the people I love.
For some more context, when the moment of clarity came, this is how much money he was making.
North of $1 million a year. But again, keep in mind, just so everybody understands, there's a difference with making money and having debt. Okay, so imagine you're making north of $1 million a year, but you don't have a house payment, you don't have a car payment, so you have a lot of money to go play. And so that's how my life was.
So you'd had this sort of personal crisis. What was your financial situation like during that period? So you took some time off work, it sounds like. You reevaluated your priorities. So like, how did your finances shift?
They didn't really shift that much because I was very, very blessed to grow up in a business environment that had a different perspective on money. I wasn't worried about it changing. It didn't matter, right? I knew whatever happened, I'd still be okay, right? I just needed to make sure I was okay and my daughter was okay. So I wasn't focused on what the next job is or what my next opportunity to make money is. It wasn't relevant to me, and I've always been taught to not have debt and have, that financial security, which creates freedom. And most people in this country don't have that now. They're the average person has less than $1,000 in the bank account, and they're living paycheck to paycheck. So I knew whether or not I had that or not, I was still going to focus on being the best version of me and figure it out. I have just confidence that I can survive. I wasn't worried about, oh my God, what's going to happen? I didn't think about that. I thought about what would happen if my daughter died. There's more important things to worry about than you can make money. Making money is the easiest thing to do. It's protecting it and saving it is the hard thing. Well, I wasn't spending it on stupid stuff. I mean, let me just put it in perspective. I have a car problem. I have some sort of mental issue with cars. I don't know what it is. I'm sure that goes back to Speed Racer when I was a young child. And so whatever would come out, I remember this guy say, hey, realize the brand new Corvette's coming out. I can get you number 5 off the production line. I said, cool, right, I'll take one. So here I'm spending whatever it was, right? Let's say, I don't know, maybe it was $80,000 back then. It was that kind of stuff, So in front of the house, there's pictures of this candy apple red Corvette, and then I had a Jaguar that had wrapped, and then I bought another Jaguar that was a racing Jaguar actually that I had wrapped in chrome, and that was a very, very expensive car. And then I remember I bought a GT4, the actual racing version. That car is like $600K plus or minus. But that was my little vice at that time. I was rewarding myself on Father's Day and my birthday. So I'd get 2 new cars every year, and then I would eventually just dump them. But they were horrible investments. Like I remember the Corvette, I lost maybe I lost 20 grand on it. The Jaguar, I lost $15,000. The GT actually has gone up in value, but I just didn't care. I had to do something to reward myself, and cars were kind of like that. Cars were kind of like my vice, to have something that's kind of cool, and people thought I was cool. So yeah.
In a bit, we'll get a deep dive on Alex's net worth and portfolio right now. Today, he's got a healthy relationship with money and personal value, and we'll talk about that. But this point in the timeline, after his daughter went through that horrible experience, is where today's views come from. Even after her birth, which he said changed a lot in him, he was still putting a lot of his personal value in how much money he could make. And as you just heard, the trophies of that work, the cars. But while he was financially wealthy and feeling rewarded for that, he was doing it all at the expense of his emotional wealth. And he'd built up a significant amount of what he calls emotional debt. Can you just explain to me how you define emotional wealth now?
It took a while for me to explain it and for me to understand what it was. But before I did that, I had to understand what emotional debt was, right? And so for me, emotional debt was growing up, what were people saying about me that I took to be as the truth? Okay, some of those might be, okay, you mumble when you talk, okay, or you have bird legs, you have skinny legs, you walk like you're better than everybody else. I mean, I'm just throwing all these things out here. And I started realizing none of that's really true. But then why were certain people that you cherish and you honor and you respect that maybe brought you into the world, why would people say stuff like that? And so I had to realize everybody else has their own emotional debt. They're loving as best as they can with the tools and the environment they were given. So when I got to the point, I met a mentor by the name of Don Enright. He said, every time you do stuff, people are blown away by your presence and your authenticity and your humility. And I'm like, wait a second. That's weird. No one told me I was humble. Everybody told me I was a cocky little F, right? But wait, this person is just unconditional. He's accepting who I am. Then, fast forwarding a little bit, a very dear friend of mine is Tim Story, probably one of the more famous public speakers and philanthropists and godly man in North America. He's Oprah Winfrey's personal coach. I start hanging out with him for a while. He says, man, people love you. There's something about you. You're so raw and authentic, and you make people feel safe. They trust you, and then they're vulnerable. And I'm thinking, why are these complete strangers saying this stuff when family members didn't? I don't get it. And then I'm going to answer your question. I write my first book 4 years ago called Get Your Satisfaction, and it sold crazy, whatever. It became a not New York Times, Wall Street Journal best-selling book. And I started reading the reviews and I'm going, damn, why are people thinking I did all this stuff? That feels so good. Then I started taking that further and further, and I start going on stages, and people are like, we've never heard anybody like you. And everybody else has been in this space for years. I'm going, huh? I go, wait a sec. So it's okay to be Alex Peycoff, the version that I am? And so to answer your question, it was a journey, but I battled. Years ago, there was a commercial where it was Robert Conrad. He had two batteries on his shoulders, like, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm battling, like, emotional. No, you're weak. You're pathetic. And then emotional. Oh, people love you. And I started realizing, oh my God, I'm going to close that chapter and never open that chapter again because it was somebody else's agenda. And it's okay. It's not that their agenda was right or wrong for them. It was wrong for me. You can't judge people for what their actions are because they have their own emotional debt and their own journey and their own things that have worked for them. Unfortunately, it didn't work for me, and I didn't know that until I went out there and changed the pool I was swimming in. Okay, when I got out of my backyard, and I started learning this before I'd go on cruises. My daughter would go on cruises. On a cruise ship, no one knows you. They don't know the car. They don't know your house. They don't know anything. You're all in the same pool. And I'm finding out, oh my God, people think I'm funny. People think I'm all these things. And I'm engaging and I'm having great conversations and I'm not stuttering and I'm not mumbling and I'm not like, and I'm pausing with my words and I'm talking how I normally talk instead of like perfect. And it was a process that I started realizing there's thousands and thousands of people that think that I am so emotionally in tune, and maybe there's 4 that don't. And it's okay. Those 4, again, they love me in their own way. They help create me, but because they had their own emotional debt, okay, or whatever's going on in their life, they just didn't have the capability to do what I did because the journey I went on wasn't the easiest journey. Because when someone's telling you you're a zebra and you realize you're not a zebra, those stripes don't come off in one day. It's basically reassuring, and then you quit listening to it. You don't tell yourself, oh, they're liars or they're whatever. You don't do that, because now you're buying the negativity. It goes in here and you go, and you push it away. And you go back to, the thousands and thousands and thousands of people I've helped that honestly believe I changed their life. Okay, so emotional wealth, damn, it's the best high. And again, like I said, no one will ever take it away from me. No bank's going to repossess it. These memories and these impacts, when the day I die, I'm going to look back and realize, my gosh, look at all these people I impacted. I'm a human being just like everybody else. I have a roller coaster of emotions. Okay, we all do. Okay, and believe me, when my mother passed away in October, I've been down low. Did I come back up? And how did I come back up? I remember her truth. I remember what she did. I remember she loved unconditionally. And I start remembering the journey I've gone with my daughter, the journey I've gone with other people. There's young boys I've helped that have struggled. I've gotten them to colleges. That's emotional wealth. That's emotional wealth. I've made an impact. Emotional wealth is impact. And it's the high of all-time highs. And it is honestly what keeps me going, because it's not about the money.
So that's the emotional wealth. This show is about actual wealth. So what is your net worth today?
It's north of $200 million.
How do you think about it differently now?
I think about it differently this way, where I don't like telling people that. So I look at that. That's really important to me. I don't like sharing that number. My daughter will always have a home. I look at it that way. She will always have a home. She will always have a roof over her head. Do I dislike the fact that people come up to me and ask me for money on a regular basis to invest in their company? Yeah, I find that very disrespectful and very rude. To quote my father, I was very lucky. I made a lot of money in real estate. I've also lost a fair amount of money on experiences, but it's okay. Do I need that portfolio in real estate? No. Does it define who I am? No. Am I trying to spend it on different things to help people that are struggling? Yes. But you can't spend it fast enough, if that makes sense. People don't understand that. Even if you just have $100 million real estate portfolio, even if you're a complete moron, it's still going to make you 3% cash on cash. That's $6 million. What do you do? So it's more of like, how do you impact? Can I go to South Africa and help do certain things? Can I maybe pay for some people for going to college? Or more importantly, can I make sure my daughter understands what to do when her father's gone? I'm very transparent about it. And people ask me a lot about my family and the company. And I say, look, here's the deal. And again, I'm doing this to help your audience. I have no hidden agenda in this. I'm not trying to sit there and roar. Okay? Sharon Lecter went to an event of mine years ago. And she said, your family's the definition of quiet wealth. Okay? And we don't talk about it. You can Google it. You can find out about this $150 million yacht. You can find out about Gulfstream jets. You can find all that type of stuff. But none of these things say the last name on them or say the company name on them. They just don't. Because what's the purpose? The purpose of having these things, are obviously for business and convenience, but the other aspect of it is for memories. Okay, so with this portfolio I have, if it can help my daughter create more memories and she can do something with it, maybe she's going to try to help teen rape and teen suicide, which, we have a foundation that's doing that now. I don't know, but I don't have the answers for you. I just, it's a cursing and a blessing, but I have found it's been more lately. It's made me angry, as weird as that sounds.
I just want to understand if you're comfortable sharing. A couple $100 million is obviously phenomenal. What does that portfolio look like in terms of what percentage of that is in the real estate versus in the markets versus in everything else? Do you sort of actively managing that, or what does that look like?
No. So here's what I've done. So I'm very, very different, and I have a fair amount of debates with people on this stuff, and it's okay. They have their perspective. So it's all in real estate, and if you go back in time in North America, the majority of the people that have made wealth, okay, people that used to own like football teams, basketball teams, it was real estate, commercial real estate, residential. Mine's all residential real estate. Years ago when I was a young kid, I forgot what it's called. It was some trading platform. And I went on a trading platform. I go, this is so awesome. I'm making money. And then I lost it all. So what I like about real estate is it's really hard to lose it all. I have properties in several states. And so there are companies that manage them. And it's really simple. When I was younger, I would manage them, and fix them because I like fixing stuff. But I don't play in the market. I don't play in crypto because I was taught if you're going to make money, you need to work for it. And it's hard to get. And when you find this younger generation that made all this money in crypto, and then when they all lost everything. But they were out buying their Lamborghinis or wherever they were and all that flashy whatever, right? But where's their money now? The stock market took a little tank the other day. A lot of people lost money. I mean, it's back up. I'd rather have something that is going to fluctuate, but it's never going to go down to zero. And again, and I'll educate your audience on real estate. There's a certain price range in a house that's never going to go away. If you have your portfolio saturated in multi-million-dollar properties, it might be hard to liquidate that. But if you have it situated in properties that are in the $100,000 range, $400,000, $500,000, there are always going to be buyers that will buy those properties. But trying to unload a property that's $15 or $18 million, if something really bad happens, you're not going to be able to do it. But there's always a market for the people in the $500,000 under. It doesn't move. Now, the $5 million properties, they're always worth $5 million because there's not a lot of buyers. Now, those low-end properties, they fluctuate. Sometimes they're $90,000, sometimes they're $110,000, but they're always going up. That's just what they do consistently. I have properties I bought in Florida that I still hold. Years ago, I bought them for $90,000. Not years ago, but like less than 10 years ago. Well, they've tripled in value. Should I sell them and deal with the capital gains and the newer higher taxes, or I should just let that thing keep on making, because off that original investment of $90,000, the properties are renting for $1,800. So it's a really good return on that initial investment. But can I sell those properties for $280 to $290 and make more money? Yes. But now I've got a higher tax base. So it's playing those games, right? And it's really, I stick in real estate. The checks keep on coming in.
I really like that idea of emotional wealth as something you can build and collect. We've obviously talked a lot about emotional well-being and why that's important to your life satisfaction. But this is a new way of looking at it. And I've got a take on the concept that's similar, but a slight deviation from the way Alex described it. Emotional wealth is like an investment account. You spend your life collecting the wealth by having positive impacts on those around you. Those individual impacts are much like dividends, paying you out by making you proud of your investments into the world. And what's great is that those impacts, like a good savings account, are compounding, aka paying it forward and the butterfly effect. Unlike an investment account, those impacts can't be lost. Once you've done whatever you've done, that moment is locked in time, and as far as we know, we can't alter what's already happened. But what emotional debt teaches us is that while we can't remove the good things we've done from the world, we can have a separate account accumulating debt, the bad kind. We can still take dividends from that account in the form of life lessons, but likewise, we can't ever remove those impacts from the world. We can only try to have our wealth account outweigh our debt, because life's more rewarding when that's the case. So if this conversation about emotional debt resonated with you and you'd like a community of people to be able to talk to you about it, because let's face it, it's hard to find places to talk about this stuff. It's hard to talk to your family and your friends about your rich people problems. You need people that get it, that are in the same position as you. And so if you'd benefit from a community like that, you've got to check out Hampton. Go to joinhampton.com. It's a highly vetted private community of founders, CEOs, high net worth individuals that are going through the same stuff that you are and can have these kind of difficult conversations. Stuff like this is being talked about in the core groups inside of Hampton and in the Slack channels and the community and the live events and all that sort of stuff all of the time. And it's just the sort of stuff you don't get anywhere else. So if that's interesting to you, go and check it out at joinhampton.com. And finally, if you like this episode, if you like this podcast, and you're thinking to yourself, I'd like a podcast just like it, well, we produce this podcast, my company. It's called Lower Street. If you like it, we can make one for you. Go to lowerstreet.co/moneywise, reach out, and we can have a chat. All right, thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you soon.